What's going on, everybody? This is Jordan with Conquer Trading and Investing. Getting ready here for our live stream. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. I'm glad you're here. I think that this channel over here, this music intro, is a little bit of something for people with low time preference. I think it weeds out a lot of people who don't understand to get something good, you got to invest in it, you got to nurture it, you got to spend time with it. That's what this community is. Those that have eyes are able to see, right? So what else are we looking at today? What are we looking at today? We have a lot planned, a lot to discuss, a lot to go over, everything market related. We're going to be taking a look at one of those things. The question was asked, what's going on with Janet Yellen? She doesn't seem to be a fan of Bitcoin. What do you think of Janet Yellen? Well, I mean, do you expect a central banker to actually be a fan of Bitcoin, the threat to their system? I don't think so. I mean, the problem was that they slept on Bitcoin the whole time. They weren't really planning on, how could they? How could they? They're focused on doing what they're doing, right? I think it's a little too late. She's talking a good game. That's fine. Does it really matter? Does Bitcoin need Janet Yellen? Bitcoin doesn't need anybody. That's for sure. We'll take a look at that. We're going to get into some interesting stuff as far as Bitcoin and adoption. We're going to talk about the possibility, answering this question over here about, hey, what's the possibility that states will actually adopt this? But Janet Yellen, she's just another brick in the wall. That's all Janet. Janet, there will never be another crisis in our lifetime. Former Fed Chairman Yellen. Yeah, the Janet Yellen, the U.S. government should buy stocks. Yellen. Do you really think that she's going to support Bitcoin? Do you really care that she doesn't? You know what? I don't. This is the new title for the video today. It's My Stop on Bitcoin is Zero, right? What do you think about that, Janet? So how do you keep emotion out? Like when prices dropping 10%, human instinct kicks in. I need to keep my finger off the sell button. If you're selling Bitcoin right now, at this point in the cycle, you're doing it wrong, right? You're just doing it wrong if you're selling Bitcoin at this point in the cycle. How about that? Let's keep it simple. Let's keep going over here. What could we talk about, though? Let's follow out the rest of this thread over there. It says, watching the recent JCL Capital, and said, my stop on Bitcoin is zero. If that doesn't show you the level of confidence in this analysis and Bitcoin itself, and that's the truth. What I'm looking for, though, there was this great share over here of these. There you go. Right? So David Shepard, my stop on Bitcoin is zero. Love it. Someone should have t-shirts printed up with that and sell them on financial Twitter. I know Novogratz and Raoul Pal would buy one. Not to mention, he named a whole bunch of people, including Dan Held, and why he thinks, I think Dan actually liked this. He would buy one. Nick Carter over here. What's his name? Willie Woo, right? But that's true. And that's what it is. I should get these t-shirts printed up and just get them out there for everyone, because I would wear one. I would definitely wear a t-shirt or a hat or something with this exactly printed on it right there. That's some good stuff over there. And that's the truth. My stop is zero on Bitcoin. So how do you, I mean, you have to take it from there. You have to have a starting point. If you're invested in Bitcoin and you're selling it over here, right? You have to ask the question, like, do you really understand Bitcoin? Now, some people were actually looking at this. I'm not saying they don't understand Bitcoin, but some people yesterday afternoon were saying, hey, Jordan, on the 1 hour, do you see that rising channel over here? Right? So I didn't have that, and I drew that in just to show them that I see what they're talking about. And you could see the breakdown, the retest, and the resumption, which is conquering the markets all day long. But I'm not trading Bitcoin on the 1 hour time frame. I'm not even trading it on the 8 hour time frame. I'm holding and riding this wave over here. There are some levels over here. You all know that I'm looking on trend lines, not to the downside. I'm not looking to sell Bitcoin over here. I'm waiting for the next breakout over here. There's the trend line over here on the upside. On the downside, we have a couple of different trend lines. Let's come to the daily time frame over here, and you can see where we are currently in. I mean, why I'm so not worried about Bitcoin is because, I mean, that's a trend line. As long as Bitcoin's above it, it's probably going to ride out the full Bitcoin bull market cycle over here. It'll, in the bear market or at the end of the bull market, is when we're going to break that line, in my opinion, for sure. And then over here, you have this other line over here. This is a lot sharper of an angle. This is like almost a 60% angle over here. It's 56% angle degree to that. And you can see that's a pretty strong one over there. And price is currently still holding above that. If you come back down to the 8 hour now, kind of where you'll find me hanging out. You can see that we are still respecting that area of support. So you're not wrong. You're right if you're able to trade that. I mean, if that's what you want to do, but it's dangerous. Just be really careful, right? Well, why I say it's dangerous is because you're seeing this, like, this is ping pong all day long. This is market chop. And yeah, there's opportunity, but is that the smartest opportunity? Or are you going to be a little bit low time preference, right? And really invest in this for the full cycle and make sure you get the most out of it. Questions you need to ask yourself, always be watching what's going on. Of course, if we break down over here, if we break this trend line over here that we could see this triangle, this wedge pattern is forming in, I'm looking for the break to the upside. Is it possible we break down here? Of course. Of course it's possible. We have over here some pretty strong support coming in between 3,000 and 2,800. I would expect if price dipped over there that would be slow. I don't expect it to come down that far. If it did, I think it would be bought up pretty quickly. Is it possible that we have a drawdown all the way to 24,000? I mean, listen, I don't think we go below that. How about that? That would be a 45% drawdown. Could it happen? It could happen. Something would be really going on that's not okay. So there we are. I'm looking for the breakout to the upside over here. Not looking to sell in the chop, but definitely looking to ride this out. And be aware, again, my stop on Bitcoin is literally 0. There, by the way, are orders in there to buy up. Adam Black has I believe Adam Black. He responded to me, whatever it was, on Twitter. But he has orders in there as well as do other people to buy up that Bitcoin. I would not sell my Bitcoin. I'd rather it go to 0 than give up that Bitcoin. But anyway, let's keep going over here. We didn't even get into anything yet. That was a little bit of a rant, a different way to start off the show. Alan on Twitter, on YouTube comments was saying Jordan's educating us about investing and trading and put us on the right side of the trade. He teaches us not to impose our views on the market, but rather let the market tell us and adapt accordingly. Excellent. Thanks, Alan. Thanks for recapping what it is we're doing and sharing over here. 71,000 subscribers. Definitely so grateful for this story being written over here, for everything that we share together. I'm going to get into this a little later. This is talking about what could future Bitcoin adoption look like. Before we do that, let's talk about the US dollar. Let's talk about Ethereum. Let's talk about the Nasdaq. Let's talk about what else is going on in the markets, and then we'll come back and get into that. Boom, 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 boom. So there's a lot of FUD going on right now as we are, the bull market is beginning. That FUD is, of 2021 seems to be the Tether 2.0 FUD and the now Janet Yellen FUD. Regulators, what are regulators going to do? They're going to try to regulate. Is Bitcoin already regulated? Yeah, it's probably, one of the most heavily regulated instruments in the entire world, right? Bitcoin is probably one of the most heavily regulated instruments in the world already. You also have an attack coming from Christine Lagarde over at the ECB. I don't have it to play for you right now. They do over here. Before I get into the charts, let's continue sharing what's important this morning over here. I follow Matt Odell on Twitter, and Matt's really helpful when it comes to security and let's say optics on the Bitcoin blockchain and in crypto in general. Well, the Bitcoin blockchain. He's also the co-host of the Tales from the Crypt podcast. If you're not familiar with that, Marty Bent. I don't want to get his name wrong. I think it's Marty Bent and Matt. I've listened to for years their Friday recap, their Friday weekly recap. It's two guys hanging out talking about Bitcoin. Matt over here has started putting together some resources on things that probably should interest all of you. Self-custody, private self-custody is when you hold your own Bitcoin, right? Privacy, nodes, no KYC, how to buy Bitcoin with no KYC, how to run your own node, how to be as private as possible on Bitcoin blockchain, which is obviously a public ledger. It's not private. There's nothing private about using Bitcoin whatsoever. Now there are different operations modes that you could use. For example, if you're using the Lightning Network, it's a little bit harder, right, to track and trace than on the base layer. But anyway, listen to this stuff if you want. Shitcoin regrets and pricing the world in sats, right? I mean, so important stuff that everyone should consider and listen to wherever you are and whatever your thoughts are regarding different projects and things like that. Everyone knows mine. I don't need to get into that right now. I'm invested in the trade that matters, the only trade that matters. That's Bitcoin, and I fully support other projects and root for their success. Censorship, privacy, and open source software, all good stuff. You should be listening to that. There's a link below. There's a link below into the comments over there where you could find the link if you want to watch Elon Musk use Signal. That's Signal right there. Elon Musk doing his best to tweet out to everyone, listen, you should be using end-to-end encryption, right? If you're using just SMS, if you're using even iMessage, that message is out there for everyone. Telegram, by the way, is not encrypted. Many of you use Telegram. I know I do. Unless you start a secret chat with someone from the beginning, that is not encrypted end to end. And Elon is just like, listen, is Signal foolproof? No. Is it better than any option you have? Yeah. So important stuff over there. And that's that for our little rant into optics and security. But it's really important you continue doing your research. It's not stuff that I go over or share with you because I focus in on price. I focus in on the charts. Nevertheless, this is all stuff that I'm highly interested in and spend a lot of my time educating myself, learning about. And I highly recommend that you do the same, especially as more and more people really start getting into Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies. It's very, very important you understand all the little, let's call them nuances. All right, so here we are looking at Ethereum, US dollar. Ethereum over here continues after printing new all-time highs just to do what they normally do. They instruments as they make that new all-time highs. Everyone following this channel all 2020 knows as gold came in to make that new all-time high, we were looking for that same price action over here, that similar price action. And here, this is exactly where it is. You can see the spike up, the spike down, right? Everyone is nervous. And then price went up to make a higher new all-time high. Ethereum right now is making that little bit of noise as it made the new all-time high. And what's it getting ready to do next? Is it going to start entering price discovery, making new all-time highs versus the dollar? I think it's sooner than later. What could you be tracking to try to get yourself into there? You can see that right now, finally, the daily has made a lower low, right? Let's come down to the 8-hour, and we can see very clearly for ourselves. We're just going to follow this trend line over here. When the market breaks that will be the first indication that it could be resuming off here. Right now, Ethereum has already come back and tested this resistance into support, spiking up off that. That's a pretty big drawdown, I would say, off the all-time high for such a short period of time. 15% drawdown. You know, the quick are the ones that get rewarded right now during this bull market. Do not think it's without risks. And if you don't know how to position yourself, right? If you don't know how much money you're risking per trade, if you're just entering any type of investment and or trade on any instrument without knowing exactly what you're doing and why, you're going to get wrecked for sure. So Ethereum, Bitcoin, wanted to look at this yesterday. It was asked also, you know, how exactly was that entry? I saw you talking about it. I know it happened, but, you know, and obviously I know it's someone that's been following the channel for about a year and active in the comments at all. So of course, we're going to go over that right now. And you can see over here, I want you to focus on this bit of support, this touch into the support. Once price broke out of this trend line, price broke above this resistance we had over here. That resistance was then retested and confirmed as support, and price spiked up after that. And that's conquering the markets all day long. The question is, what's the exact entry? You can see here as price comes into that area of support and then makes the higher high. That's the entry right there. This is Ethereum versus Bitcoin. Now, and want everyone to know that, everyone that follows us. That's very, very important. Very, very, very important. We just say that's conquering the markets all day long. So that's that. By the way, those that are watching right now, those that aren't able to be here with us live but watch every day, just a big shout out to all of you. Definitely feel you. Enjoy all the comments that you share, the likes, everything. Grateful for you. Grateful for all of that. Let's look at some more charts over here. Let's see what's going on today in the market. I want to start with the dollar. You can see the dollar over here is coming. It looks like it broke down from that little light guide I put in there for us. Everyone knows bigger picture. This is the trend line. We have broken down outside of that. Coming in for a retest, or not even. We could possibly be breaking down right now We're coming in for the retest right now. Let's see if price resumes off there, or if we get back above this trend line and then targeting this area over here. I've been using Brad's photo of this forever. Finally sent a chart that I could actually control and move over here. This is his workup of the DXY. Different than mine, but similar, and you'll see 1 second. Like, this is what I'm watching over here right now. The breakdown of this channel, the retest, and looking for upside down. Look what Brad has over here. This is really not, this is his outer trend line over here. We talked about this, I think, yesterday, if not on Monday. And you can see over here that we are getting ready for perhaps breaking out, but we're into resistance. We're into strong resistance over here, right? It got horizontal right now, but more importantly, this trend line over here, a breakout above this, right? That should take us towards this area here of 92 to 90.56. This area over here of resistance, that would be the next place to step into sell. What does that look like on mine? Now let's call it 90.30, okay? 90.30. Yeah, 90.30. 90.30. What am I talking about? Let me try it one more time over there. That would be up 92, 92.30. Sorry about that. And I have 92.22. So same area. You see that right there? That line right there, that would signal trading above that we're looking at what looks like perhaps a trend change on the dollar. But until then, we're coming into strong resistance. So a lot of people, it's important to get right. There's one thing that we got right in 2020. There's many things that we got right in 2020. Actually, there's an enormous amount of things that we got right in 2020. It's all on video. I would love, I know Brandon's been talking about it. I would love one day, maybe in the future when we'll get together one day, to have a highlight video of 2020 and all the calls that were made across the board. So what else are we looking at today? Let's keep going. Let's look at gold and silver. Let me peep it on WTI. It's so funny, just instincts. Back towards that high resistance over there, targeting up into that 56.50 area over here. And first, we have resistance over there at 54.50. All right, gold up 1% on the day. That's kind of nice. Let's take a look at the daily time frame, right? And it looks very, 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 I mean, it looks good over here, right? Continuing to consolidate, getting ready for that next run. I believe that next run is coming this year in 2020. Coming off a nice area of support right now. This is interesting, right? You could cap your risk. If someone were to enter this trade in this area over here right now, after we're coming off into that support and bouncing up, and you know where you're getting out of this trade, you know where your risk is capped, right? Is it possible we make another leg down into here over the next month or so and coming down and test closer to that support of 1743 and respecting this channel, even spiking down outside of this channel as we have in the past? Of course, all that continues to be possible, right? That's why timing is everything. Waiting once we break outside to start that next run up, that's when the momentum will really be there. If you're entering now, it's more you're accumulating into a longer position. Same thing with silver. It looks good. I'm going to move this back to where it is, but you could see that same trend line being respected over there, right? You can see the touch coming off of it. We got resistance coming up. We're in midway on silver in this downward sloping channel over here, continuing to consolidate after the massive move up in 2020, looking to continue and extend on that in 2021. If you're new here, by the way, welcome, right? Please, and if you're not new here, please smash that like button as we got going this morning. We've been live here for about 23 minutes, covered a lot, and we got 475 likes. I can't tell you how much those likes help support this channel, and I'm grateful for you going ahead and spending a moment and doing that. What else? And where do I want to begin and where do I want to start? We could get a little more than that, for real. Spread the love. Let's take a look at Litecoin really quick. I want to just take a look across the altcoins here briefly, just so everyone sees that all of them are consolidating right now. And it's a place not like as they were just a couple of days ago and over the weekend when they were spiking. People were looking to get into them. What am I missing? Where should I be invested? Oh, let me buy a top or two. No. Now's the time, right? As things are pulling back off, you want to be there and you want to be active, looking to pick up wherever your next snipe is. So let's get into FX a little bit this morning. Let's see what's going on across the board. Before we do that, let me finish off with the S&P 500. Let me come back. I'm going to start on the daily time frame on the S&P 500 and the markets. You can see that they continue in this upward sloping channel over here, almost on autopilot. Again, the one thing we're looking for on the upside is if we get a breakout to the upside, that would probably be an event that will be sold into. So we're going to go like, well, I guess we'll have it like this right now, right? And we'll continue watching that. If we get a breakout like that, that's something that probably would be sold. Seem to be on autopilots, equity markets, as really just the money continues to flow, right? What's the next topic going to be today as President Biden is sworn in? Is the next topic going to be the stimulus, or is it going to be how we pay for the stimulus? We will see. Or is it going to be on impeaching the president that left? I don't know what they're going to focus in on, the lawmakers. When we find out, that's what the market's going to key up. But the market's a lot smarter than that. The market's a lot smarter than that. The market's focused in on it knows it's plugged into that fiat juice machine, and it's flowing, right? And that's what's happening over there. Ethereum we looked at a couple of times over there. Oh, by the way, let's talk about. We'll come back to adoption at the end. We'll come back to adoption on the end. Before we do, let's go over to Litecoin, and then we're gonna get into really FX. I'm gonna put some good work in over here. I want to look at Litecoin and also on Chainlink, and you can see that's Litecoin, right? And then on Chainlink over here, what do we got over there? Yeah, it's a steep angle and it's a steep decline. Once price probably starts making those higher highs, it's a good chance. Oh, there you go. That looks a lot neater on the 8-hour. You could see it developing very clean and nice on a steeper angle, and rightfully so because it is going vertical. What about Link? That also, Link with Bitcoin, very orderly, very nice. Again, this is when people are attracted, but this is when if you're attracted, you should be buying. Think about that. So that's across the board. And Cardano, look at that. I mean, that's opportunity that drip down. Remember I was saying to you on the S&P 500, I'm looking for this. Once price breaks above that trend line and spikes up, that's going to be a signal that it's the opposite right here on Cardano. You had the opposite happen, and that was the capitulation. That was the chance to break back in here and pick up some cheap Cardano if you're interested in the project. All right, so let me come into FX. I'm going to start over here with the Australian dollar, Japanese yen, just to get a feel for what's going on. I might even do this on the 1 day right now, just to give everyone a kind of clean feel. It feels a lot like what's happening in the oil market. It feels a lot what's happening in the equity markets, right? We're having that like strong momentum. The current is flowing in one direction, and it's strong. The signal's strong, right? People are always worried for that unknown risk. People always think that the sky is going to fall, right? People think, for example, today that the markets are just going to bleed out in cash. A lot of people, are not invested into Bitcoin here at $35,000. They're on the sidelines waiting. I hope they're quick enough if it starts breaking out to the upside to get in. I really do. Thank you, Mr. B. Definitely missing lots of likes. But that's okay. We'll keep going and we'll get them. But so I'm painting the narrative of what's going on. Not the narrative. That's not the right word for in this case. I'm painting the picture of what's happening, what's taking place right now, just so you could ride that same wave and make sure that you see it and it's clear. Biggest wave, obviously Bitcoin. That's bringing the rising tide, bringing everything with it. That includes all of crypto, starting with Ethereum, and now it's starting to move down into the rest and smaller projects. What do we got over here? What's going on? This is gold versus Bitcoin, and it's up 3% today. Gold stronger than Bitcoin. This is something that's very interesting. I think this is probably one of the easiest trades that, in my opinion, at this point in the cycle. I mean, what do you value more under these conditions, gold or Bitcoin? When I talk about that, I mean the current part of the cycle, but watch over there. For when that trend line breaks, that will be the place to attack. All right, Australian dollar, Japanese yen. I see what's going on. Let me look at the euro US dollar, get a better feel for what's going on over here in FX. And US dollar continues just to be a little bit range bound, right? Let me get it. It's into that strong resistance we just looked at. You can see that it was rejected here first, coming back up. A retest over here, that's going to bring down the next leg of the dollar, taking us down towards this support over here, down towards the yearly low. That looks like it's the direction that it's headed into my opinion. Now, and this is where your risk is capped, breaking above that trend line over here to the upside. And then you have that resistance that we probably come into on a breakout right into 91. Right around this area is when we would be looking for that full first pullback and a retest of the dollar. So if we're still looking for continued dollar weakness, is it against the euro? The euro has just been out of favor. Let's call it that. The euro is pretty weak right now. Not something that I want to be buying. This is not my chart. I got to get off this chart 1 second. That's why I was having trouble. The thing about when people share charts is that, see, I lost it. All right, well, that's good. No problem. Let me come back over here and let me go back to the euro US dollar. And what I could see that is happening is that, yeah, like I see that the euro has pulled back into some support over here. But do I want to trade against dollars in euros? No, I don't at all. It's not attractive right now, right? Well, what about the euro versus the Japanese yen? What's more attractive over here, right? Neither. But you could look at this into this area of support, euro versus Japanese yen. That's something to pay attention to. Let me go ahead and just clean this up really quick. As we come into the support over here, it just offers nice opportunity, I think, here on the euro Japanese yen. Again, we haven't seen any signs whatsoever of anyone interested in the yen. We saw an enormous amount of movement into the yen in February and in March of 2020 before the Fed acted. And since then, we have not seen any interest whatsoever. Trading against the yen remains one of the best plays in FX, in my opinion. Is it against the euro that you want to trade against the yen, right? So it's funny, the US dollar and the Japanese yen, it's like they're having a fight here who could be the weakest. And they're both, or I'm sorry, the Japanese yen would prefer, Japanese would prefer the yen was a lot weaker. They're worried it's going to strengthen a lot versus the dollar. They're worried that it's going to go, the dollar is going to go so weak that they have to defend the $100 area over here on the US dollar, Japanese yen. And they said that they will do that. That's verbal intervention. That's what actually started this spike up over here. This was some verbal intervention. Now, that's not actionable. Market most likely is going to want to test down towards that actionable area and get close to it and see what happens. It's just what the market does. So are we going to see a stronger dollar in this right here, or a weaker dollar? That's the question. I think we're going to see a weaker dollar here in 2021, trying to build off that. But I don't really see any opportunity in this moment over here. New Zealand dollar, Japanese yen. This looks absolutely nice, actually. This is a sign of breaking out of this descending wedge over here. Very clean setup looking to take place over here. Now, the easy way to play it is not on the breakout on currencies at all. Wait for a retest and see if it resumes out and holds, or if we fall back into this descending channel over here, this descending wedge over here. So that's of interest. I'm going to start from zero, and I'm going to go ahead and unflag everything. And I'm going to flag this over here. I'm just going to jump back to Ethereum, Bitcoin, flag that really quick over here, and then with a different color, and then come back. So what about the New Zealand dollar, Japanese yen, right? Which one looks a little bit more interesting? I see that a nice pullback into that area of strong, the first resistance support over here, price holding, looking to resume off there. I think I like it versus the US dollar better, to be honest. I definitely would prefer that too. So I'm not going to flag the Japanese yen right now. Not even going to look at the Swiss franc. I'm going to come over to the pound US dollar, look at the pound US dollar, then look at the pound Japanese yen, and then maybe across if something else is going on over there. So pound US dollar, not interesting at all, right? It just continues in this beautiful, beautiful channel that it's in. Nice slope to it, nice angle, very orderly. And again, it's just everything taking advantage of that dollar. Come back to the 3-day and notice that huge trend line break against the dollar. We're just into resistance right now. People want things to unfold a lot quicker than they do. On crypto, they unfold very quickly. Very, very quickly, especially at this point in the cycle. That's not the case in other markets over here. You can see that we're just since the breakout, and it's happened on a micro level, right? You could look over here, and you can see the breakout failed breakout, retest, resumption, right? Or you could look at this on the daily time frame and you could say that, well, in the greater scheme of things, we just broke out coming into that first area of resistance. We could have another retest, you know, even all the way down into the against this trend line again and into this support down over here. And that could happen anytime in the next month or two, right? So we'll see and wait and watch. But right now we're coming into that area of resistance. It's not very attractive for me to be buying against the dollar into resistance. So it's just there's no play over here. I feel like we're in no man's land, and that's why just avoiding FX in this moment right here, right now. Pound Japanese yen. What about that? Let me look at the let me just snap back over here. Look at the bigger time frame. And you can see, again, we have that upward sloping channel. It looks very nice over here, coming into an area of resistance, right? Is that a place that you want to go long here, the pound Japanese yen, or wait for a break above this resistance to get going if we're able to break above it? Or will we have a retest further down towards this area of support at 139.78 or even lower to all the way down to 137.90? So, you know, I don't know what's going to happen over here. Just nothing's going on right now that is mildly attractive. Maybe the cross pairs are attractive. Let me look at the pound Australian dollar. And we've pulled back into this area that was of interest for me, this area of resistance. I marked it blue. Let me take a sip of water over here. I marked it blue over here. So if we came back up into there, I knew to be ready. You can see that we're in a strong downtrend. This is a commodity currency versus the British pound. Now, the one thing that I factor in here is that the pound is being repriced a little bit ever since the 2021 after we had the deal over there on the Brexit. And, you know, what do you make of that? Are we going to see a bigger move here in the pound? We're pulling back into resistance, a strong resistance in a downtrend. Normally something I want to sell. So let's look at a couple of different pairs versus the Australian dollar also. Let me look at the Euro Australian dollar, right? I know that the Euro is weak, and here you could see that into that resistance. The Australian dollar was able to strengthen versus that Euro. It's still this possibly descending wedge, either that or it's a channel. I don't really have that marked up too well. So a channel like that looks a lot better, right? And then I have symmetry. If I wanted to really look at it, I would clone this pair, come down over here, find out where it is. But I don't. So anyway, you can see that on the Euro Australian dollar, it came into that area of small resistance and were able to be rejected. You can see how the pound is acting stronger than the euro in this particular case over here. So let's look at the Euro British pound, right? And so this is very interesting on the Euro British pound. We see that the pound is definitely stronger here than the euro, right? Breaking this important level of support right now. This becomes very much in play. I'm talking about it loosely because we've been lining this up now for a week or two, right? It's just occurring now. The last line of hope has broken here on the Euro British pound. This opens up the downside here for an attack now once we get an opportunity to get an entry in. So you can see that we've already spiked up, coming back in for a retest right now of that broken support. We're going to find out and see if it holds as resistance. And if not, if we resume down, that could be a nice play. I could see a bigger theme here. Yeah, I could see that there is a move into pound appreciation right now. It's very slow. It's very slow. There is no rush whatsoever, but people are feeling more comfortable and people falling a little bit out of love here with the euro. I read something about how the ECB has already been able to implement yield caps. I don't know anything about it. I only read the headline. I didn't read into it. Something that I would like to know more about if I had the time. So that brings us around to where? Let's look at Australian dollar and New Zealand dollar just to get a sense of what's going on over here, right? Is that anything of interest at all? It's not. I'm going to keep it going, keep it moving. What else is of interest? I don't really see too much of interest happening, which is bizarre. This is the Canadian dollar, Japanese yen. Let me clean this up, and you can see that we are into some resistance right now. Are we going to break out of over here? Are we seeing a massive move against the yen? That's been occurring and continues, and it started ever since the Fed acted, right? You went from this huge inflow to the Japanese yen. Swiss franc, and now out of the Japanese yen, continues to be out of favor over here. Look at that trend line break. Let me come back on the daily time frame. That goes back a few years over here, 3-year trend line break. It's a big deal. That's a big deal. I'm going to be watching this one as well. So I want to look at not only the Canadian dollar, Japanese yen, but I want to look at some other Japanese yen pairs, because I see that when this pair is coming into this big level right over here, you know, we got some resistance above us right over here, above 81.97. It's pretty clear that we've broken out. At any point, getting above that line, if you get above it, you could start looking for a retest and a resumption. Will you be rejected here? And if you are, what are you looking to do? Stand aside, right? It's not, do you really want to short the Canadian dollar versus the Japanese yen right now after it's just been like rising upwards just because it's into some resistance here? Not me. No way. I'm looking and waiting to see if we get that multi-year breakout and then could attack it to the upside. So Australian dollar, Japanese yen, it's already broken out of a trend line. And as you can see how the Australian dollar is stronger than the Canadian dollar in this sense against the Japanese yen. Let's look at them together. And you can see here also the Australian dollar way stronger than the Canadian dollar. So that's a couple of clear trends there. Very, very clear trends. What else is happening against the Japanese yen? Let me just look again at the pound Japanese yen. I'm looking to see if we have any type of big, we're lagging here. So you could look at this and saying, well, right now we're seeing a move into the pound over the last couple of weeks. There's a big reason, fundamental reason why. And now I see that it's lagging everything else, where we're seeing on the Australian dollar, we see a huge multi-year trend line break and it's taking off. The Canadian dollar just testing that trend line now versus the Japanese yen. So is this the one that's out of orbit, right? Is the most opportunity perhaps on the pound Japanese yen over here, as we're seeing these big moves against the Japanese yen, and the pound is obviously lagging because of all of the turmoil that was been hanging over its head throughout all of 2020. So interesting. I think that warrants its own color over here. I'm going to come back and look into later on my own. So what else are we looking at? I want to take a stop. By the way, 774 likes. It's hard to say which is a better session, yesterday's or today. Now, yesterday we left here with 1,100 likes, and the session was absolute fire. This one has almost been more important for myself. Yesterday was fun. This one's been super important. I don't know, but I do ask, you know, if you're here, if you enjoy spending time together, go ahead and definitely smash that like button. Anytime you see the like button, just be like, oh, you know, it's Conquer Trading and Investing. Boom. Let me go ahead and get that going over there. Definitely appreciate that. So, Jordan, the title says, my stop on Bitcoin is 0. Why would you dismiss your process for Bitcoin? Does that dismiss my process for Bitcoin? Listen, it's not up to me. Everyone knows that my process for Bitcoin is way more, let's say, solid. It's than not anyone else's, because there's a lot than most anyone else's. So am I dismissing it, or is someone who reads that dismissing my process? It doesn't make a difference to me. You know, I know what my process is. Those that know me, those that share with me, they understand how much I've looked into Bitcoin, how well I've understand Bitcoin, for how long, and the more the time that has passed, and the more that my understanding of Bitcoin has increased, so has my position. But that's what my stop is, and I think that's important to get that out there. I think that's important for people to understand that. You know, I just rode Bitcoin through 3,800 and picked up more in the low 4,000s, right? If I didn't sell then, you think I'm going to sell now? Come on. What else? I mean, but I don't really care what other people think of that. You know, that's up for them and their own, for them to make. But I see a lot of people selling Bitcoin up here at $36,000. What are we trading at today? $35,000. A lot of people are selling Bitcoin. I'm not. You know, definitely not. So we wanted to speak about this though over here. This was Anthony Papalano on Real Vision, and he's talking about the adoption of Bitcoin. The reason I bring that up over here, because we were talking about briefly The fact that, like, he stated at some point in that video that I think that Bitcoin is going to become the next global reserve currency. And I'm like, I don't know. I think the chances of that are pretty low, 5 to 7%. I would like to hear a conversation on that, though, and I would like to understand more. If you could explain to me how that would actually work and why central banks, whose interest is controlling fiat, relinquish that power at any point in time, or why would any country or state embrace Bitcoin? And you do see certain, places like Florida. The mayor of Miami said that he wanted to keep 1% of their treasury in Bitcoin. I mean, that's huge, and we're going to see more signs of that. The question is over here, though, Jordan, are you just more interested in on technical analysis on the price of Bitcoin, or do you pay attention to different aspects regarding Bitcoin, more sophisticated socio-political aspects as to why you would not be accepted by nation states in the future, right? And I would like to know why. Why would they, right? So if someone could explain to me what incentive any other nations or states would have to accept Bitcoin, I could understand why a nation like Cuba or Iran or North Korea would, being cut off from the U.S. financial system with the dollar as the reserve currency. So if you're forced out, Venezuela, the people there adopted Bitcoin because of the rising inflation, the hyperinflation taking place. It was the only thing that would store money. And they also had free electricity from the government, so they were all mining Bitcoin as cheap as you can mine it. Even a little bit was going a long way. So the question goes further, like some well-established philosophers, and the essence is they're very hard to understand arguments point toward it being very difficult to break the barriers and establish a more widespread market in the everyday life. Hold on, we'll come back to that and unpack that in 1 second. Jordan, how dare you? Oh man, what did I do now? How dare you ask for simple, free, easy likes for such priceless, useful information. How dare I? Thanks, brother. I appreciate that very much. I do appreciate that very much. Jordan, the user will watch the Money Masters. Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. Yesterday, we were talking and hinting on that. I think that's like, for me, that was 101, right? The Zygus Money Masters. For me, that was me really becoming to understand the financial system 101. That's a big one. Definitely understand how money's created, who controls the money. Anyway, let's keep going over there. Where was I going to? I was talking about Anthony Pompilano and the adoption of Bitcoin, coming off this question over here of how could Bitcoin become the world reserve currency, and will it or not? Look, I don't want to get that far. I do consider all these things all the time over an extended period of time. For years, I've been wrestling with all of this stuff and do continue. And I would like to see it unfold more. I'm not looking for Bitcoin to become the world reserve currency. I'm looking for Bitcoin to overtake the market cap of gold. That's my next objective. I foresee that happening for a while. I've foreseen that happening for a while. That's what I've been focused on. I did the math back in 2018. Gold was priced differently, and so was Bitcoin. And the market cap was $7.5 trillion at that point of gold. The market cap is higher now of gold. I don't know exactly what it is. And at that point, for Bitcoin to overtake the market cap, $7.5 trillion of gold, each Bitcoin would have been priced, I think, at approximately $320,000. Now, again, the market cap of gold is higher, so that number is higher. I don't know what that is now. Maybe it's like 450,000. I don't think we do that this cycle. I've always said I think it's going to be in 2025 that Bitcoin is able to go ahead and overtake the market cap of gold. Could it happen sooner? Yeah, it could happen sooner. That's my first objective. Once we get there, once Bitcoin has achieved that, we could take a look around. We could see what's going on. And then we could see, all right, maybe now the chance of Bitcoin becoming the world reserve currency is a lot higher. Is a lot higher. Maybe now it's like, maybe it's 14%. Do you think gold is going to become, well, gold is. The central banks own gold. So, and I think that's a trend that we're going to see that's continuing. If the central banks ever start buying Bitcoin, then it's game over. So maybe the answer to this question is they'll be forced into it. Nation states will be forced into it from the crumbling nature of the current financial system. Now you're seeing a move away from the system, a move away from the dollar. You're seeing countries like China and Russia. Russia right now owns more gold than it does treasuries. Right? Russia's divested completely of U.S. treasuries. China's in the process of doing so. The reason that they do this is because the U.S. uses the U.S. dollar as a financial weapon, and it sanctions currencies. And it's, if you're another country, what could you do, right? What could you do if you're Russia and you're sanctioned and you can't do business with Europe, who's right next to you, because the U.S. said you can't use our financial system if you do that? What do? You sell your dollars, you get out of dollars, and you start trading in different currencies. So that's taking place. People 2 years ago wouldn't accept it. Now they see it. Now you see it very clearly. So I guess the answer to this question is it's going to be forced upon nation states. Now other states are preparing, and central banks are preparing. That was my point over there. Central banks are preparing their digital currencies, right? They're not trying to, like, they're putting up a fight, and their fight basically is to crash this current system and then make a leap over to a new system, bring everyone with them, and retain all of their control. And if they're able to do that, they're going to do that. That's the intent. What are the governments trying to do? And governments, right, are shutting down, a large part of the economies, and they're making it so everyone needs to be reliant on more government stimulus. We just saw $600 checks go out a few weeks ago. They're talking about sending now $1,400 checks, right? Well, if you don't believe that, well, that's what's happening. And I'm here to talk about what's happening, and the reason this is our whole investment thesis is completely surrounded about what is occurring in the world at this given time. IMF wants us all in the SDR. IMF, Andy, I started in 2018 talking about how the IMF was getting ready to launch their central bank digital currencies because they were releasing papers on it. You just gotta you gotta follow what's out there, right? And if you follow finance is fascinating. You're not following news and the news cycle, right? But you're finding out what's going on, what's being developed, what's happening. You've already seen the Chinese. They're in the process of launching the digital yuan. They're way ahead. They're actually a couple of years, 2 to 3 years ahead of what's going on with the Federal Reserve and the digital dollar. And because of that, the yuan is going to receive some big adoption. We talk about that on cryptocurrency, on Ethereum. Ethereum was this first mover in the protocol space, and it has a serious amount of network effects being built because of all the things being built on top of that. Digital yuan, first one to get out there. You don't think that the yuan is going to see further adoption? I know I live here in Mexico, and people talk about the fact that, listen, Jordan, did you hear that there's going to be the opportunity to buy the digital yuan? I want to buy that. That's just some people, regular people, not even into finance in Mexico. Do you think that's going to happen in India? Of course. Is there anything that you ever buy in China that you might want wants for, right? So what else? We got the stop in. You guys are really hitting on that. There we go. I had the music up. The reason I had the system audio on, I can't follow the comments. Apologize for that. But the reason I had the system audio on is I want to play this clip over here so you can just hear about the future adoption going on.
Normal person outside of finance say that. No one's ever said, oh, the dollar crashed today, right? No, what they say is, hey, I used to spend $3 to buy that loaf of bread. Now I spend $4, right? It got more expensive. That's about the only thing that they'll say, anything to do with purchasing power. Well, we still price assets today in dollars. And it is coming. It is absolutely coming. As soon as we start seeing corporations reporting Bitcoin on their balance sheet as part of their reserves, you're going to start seeing corporations pricing goods in Bitcoin. And they'll start with super fringe, weird things, almost like gimmicks, right? They'll say at the baseball stadium, oh, come buy the Bitcoin hot dog, right? And it's, 100 Satoshis gets you the hot dog. And people will laugh and they'll buy it. And then all of a sudden it's the soda as well. And then it's the fries. And then it's the peanuts. And then it's just the ticket to the game, right? And then it's the salary for the player. And it's literally the revenue of the team. And so that may take 10 or 15 years to happen. But when we start pricing things in Satoshis, what you're going to see is all of a sudden that volatility basically gets masked, right? Bitcoin only dropped recently 20% in US dollar terms. In Bitcoin terms, it didn't drop. One Bitcoin equals one Bitcoin. It's just like dollars. $1 equals $1. It's not about did the dollar drop. It's did the dollar become less valuable compared to goods that it wants to buy or services it wants to buy. And so that's the big leap, right? That's the one that scares everybody around like, wait a minute, I denominate every asset in my life in dollars. When I have to start switching and I denominate everything in Satoshis, what happens? And I did this about 2 years ago. I started to think of everything in Satoshis.
So over here, we're talking about the future adoption of Bitcoin. And basically what he's saying is at first slowly and then suddenly. And that's what's been happening in Bitcoin. And of course, I'm very much interested in what the future adoption is going to look like of Bitcoin and how and why nation states would adopt Bitcoin. But it does look like they're going to be forced into it. And they're forced into it from what is Signal over to us. That's the devaluing dollar. And it's not just the dollar. It's all of fiat being devalued. Okay, so it's just a question when it comes to dollars, which is why it's not even an interesting market, is which fiat is going to devalue first and quickest, right? If that's what you're interested in, then I think that a switch hasn't yet gone off, and you haven't seen why things like Bitcoin are super, super interesting. Hard, scarce money, digital money. You know, what is the future of the world here as things are built out across the internet? As AIs start interacting with the internet, there needs to be, Jack Dorsey has said, a native currency to the internet. He thinks it will be Bitcoin. Square has been very, very forthright in their signal in being Bitcoin only, not offering any other cryptocurrencies on their platform, nor will they ever. There's a reason for that. So that's that for today. Why do you think what happens to the price of Bitcoin when the Fed comes out with their own cryptocurrency? So is that one threat? So thinking this through, by the way, great question. Is the threat to Bitcoin actually going to be in 2023 when the Fed launches the digital dollar? Right? And what could they do? So the US at any time can make it illegal to hold Bitcoin with the penalty of jail and fines. At any time they could do that. Not only could they do that, they could track for very well with very sophisticated chain analysis companies and engineers what's happening on the blockchain. So now, by the way, talking about just adoption, also back in 2016, I never even dreamed of using Bitcoin in the way that I do today. I've recently downloaded the Strike app. People might use things like the Cash App or Venmo, but you could just use Bitcoin itself, and send money to anyone free. So yeah, it's so early that it's still ridiculous. If you're into Bitcoin right now, it's so early, it's still ridiculous. And Bitcoin's only trading at $34,866 right now. A lot of people don't see it like that because a lot of people still don't understand Bitcoin and the monetary system. So they're thinking, well, I missed it. I should have bought it earlier when it was cheaper because it's some beanie baby that it's like I need to get in before other people and then get out later. Or is that the dollars, right? So that's what Anthony Popolano was just saying in that video when he's like, I learned to price everything in Satoshis. And once I was able to do that in my head, that really clicked for me. So it's not a question of is Bitcoin going up in dollar terms or is it going up in purchasing power? We all know that the dollar continuously dwindles in purchasing power. The same thing that a dollar bought today, it didn't buy 10 years ago. It didn't buy 5 years ago, and it won't a few years from now. It's just the way it is. But why Bitcoin over that period of time increases in power. So once you learn to really focus, this is why Bitcoin changes everything. People who are into Bitcoin really get into, really understand how to budget their money well, how to save their money. It should be taught in schools. Anyway, it's taught right over here. So what else could they outlaw? Well, we're not going to get into any of that. All right. It's been a good session. We didn't get 1,000 likes. We did get 940 likes. That's pretty good. We do have a training session tomorrow after for Conquering the Markets members only. Do look out for that tomorrow. It sounds like an outro, but I don't know. Let me see what else is going on over here. Maybe we could work our way up to 1,000. Maybe there's some things that I missed because I wasn't focused in on the comments at all. I was focused in on what's going. So let me just focus in on you guys a little bit here right now and see if there's anything we want to get into and really nail down a little bit. People might be wondering about gold and silver. So the thing is people are attracted to things when they move. When they make their move, that's when people are attracted to them, right? So you want to get in the habit of being able to visualize the market and what's going to happen in the future, right? So not like if you see silver up 1%, oh, I want to jump after silver, right? But because as soon as Bitcoin breaks out over here, and once it breaks out, I think we're going to see some pretty. I don't think Bitcoin's going sideways once it breaks out of consolidation. It's in consolidation right now, and how long that lasts, well, that could continue to last, right? That could go on towards the end of February, and that would not be abnormal. Do I think that's going to happen? I don't think that's going to happen, but it could go into the beginning of February. It could go for another 10 days or so and continue to consolidate, right? All the way back down towards 3,000, even 2,800. That would all be very normal. Do I think that's going to happen? No. But what I think is going to happen as Bitcoin breaks out over here to the upside and Bitcoin starts spiking, that a lot of people are then going to want to own that Bitcoin. That's going to make it continuing to spike upwards. You want to be preemptive. 10 more, we got it, huh? So what are my top 3 places to invest in Bitcoins? Bitcoin. JVM. I can't look again. Money Masters. Do understand Money Masters. We did make it to 1,000. That's pretty cool. We talked about Inauguration Day. Yeah, that doesn't. Should that affect the markets in any which way, shape, or form? Well, what are the markets going to be looking at next? And is it whether or not what the stimulus is going to be? How are the markets going to react? They're going to like the $1.9 trillion number, or are they going to be disappointed if the number comes in less? Or is the market going to start being focused in on taxes and how that's going to affect, how that's going to affect the market? Because that's going to be the next conversation as well. I don't know. Right now, I think the markets continue to pay attention to Signal. Signal is right now there's $315 billion a month in QE coming from G10 central banks. The majority coming from the Federal Reserve and the ECB. The euro and the US dollar and the Federal Reserve leading the way here in trying to destroy their currencies. Kraken, Gemini, Coinbase. I would definitely, on this list over here, I would definitely add, over Coinbase, add BlockFi. I definitely appreciate BlockFi and their service. I look at that as like the bank of the future, right? That's where and I love all aspects of BlockFi, including their security. You could whitelist an address where a withdrawal can't be made for 7 days. And when you add a withdrawal address, it's going to be that means 7 more days until you could withdraw to it. So that's a good thing. They also do facial recognition whenever you try to make a withdrawal. That's also a good thing. And then you have your normal 2-factor authentication. Make sure you use different email addresses for every single exchange. These are just like security 101. And if you're not familiar with them, then you want to find out in the link below. There's the link over here to Matt Odell's Citadel Dispatch, and all. You could follow the conversations. You could watch. This is how I spent a lot of my time over the years. On Fridays, I used to watch the Rabbit Hole Recap and just listen to Marty and Matt discuss Bitcoin, right? And I've listened to I don't know how many episodes, maybe 20 episodes of these Friday recaps over a couple year period. Recommend that. It's just good way to be introduced to other different things, because I do focus in on price, right? I focus in on charts. I focus in on patterns and behavior. That's what I do. That's my strength. That by focusing more on the fundamental, or it was called over here the socio-political aspects. I also spend a lot of time thinking about that stuff, but I don't have that conversation with you all, because that's not where that I refer to other people, and you definitely should also. So what else? You see that this is, I'm not, you should just right now, there's a beautiful demonstration on the Strike app on Twitter. You could find it, I'm sure, on Jack Mahler's Twitter page, but just search Strike app Twitter demonstration. Find out what it is, why it's awesome. All right, everyone. That's it for today. I enjoyed the time here. Thanks for being here. It was a short one, just over an hour. Got a lot done, a lot covered. Thank you for showing and sharing all that love. I'll see you all in the afternoon. We're going to go out with some music, though. All right, everybody. Thank you. Thank you for this session over here. It was truly fantastic. I enjoyed it. Bob Marley, Three Little Birds, one of my favorite songs of all times on all of my playlists. I wish it could be the CTM theme song, but listen, we don't have the copyrights. But yeah, Three Little Birds, that's a good way to go out. I wish we go out with that tomorrow during the live stream for the training session, which we can use copyrighted music. We'll definitely be going with Bob Marley's Three Little Birds. All right, everyone. Have a beautiful day, and I'll talk to you soon.